Me, 21F, with the family I nanny for. The son, 13M. S behavior is starting to creep me out, but I'm not sure if it actually is inappropriate or just a cultural difference. So I am from the US and recently moved to Italy to nanny. I feel this is important because so far I have not been able to tell if I'm struggling with a cultural difference here in Italy or if I actually have reason to be weirded out. It is easy to tell that the son, Dario, is in middle school, as he is already several inches taller than me and his mom, and has maybe 30 pounds on me. When I first got here, some of the stuff that freaked me out a little I could handle, and I chalked it up to being an Italy thing. This includes stuff like talking almost exclusively in a baby voice when addressing his parents, calling his parents mommy and daddy, fighting physically with his little sister over who gets to sit on mom and dad's lap multiple times throughout the day, fighting with the sister over who gets to sleep with the parents, getting extremely upset when mom or dad leaves for the day, and whining about not getting enough kisses or time laying in bed kissing with mom, and having his parents blow on chewed food in his mouth because it's too hot. Now, I really don't want to be critical of this if it's normal here, you know? But in the US, I seriously can't imagine a single 7th grade boy engaging in any of these behaviors, so it's really new to me. And really it hadn't affected me, so I just let it be. The problem is though that now I'm starting to get involved, and it's making me really uncomfortable. For example, our rooms have adjacent windows which allows the kids to see into my entire room at all times. To me, this is pretty inappropriate. What am I supposed to do when I need to change clothes? But I also don't want to seem like I am sexualizing children or accusing them of anything, so I just politely asked for curtains and took to changing in the bathroom. After weeks without curtains, the family finally promised me that someone was coming to put them up. Well, he only put them in the kids' room. Ever since then, I find Dario peeping through the curtains at me multiple times a day. Now I'm sure he is just checking on me or curious about what I'm up to, but it makes me so uncomfortable. I didn't want to tell the family though because I'm afraid they would think I was accusing their baby of trying to spy on me changing, so I just took matters into my own hands and hung a blanket up over my window. Another issue has been when we stay at the kids' grandparents' house. There is a room for the parents, with a bed for one child, and a room for me with a bed for one child. I figured we would split up boys and girls, and I would stay with the daughter, but nighttime rolls around and Dario is crawling into the bed next to mine. I was so uncomfortable I could hardly sleep. I have talked to my friends at home about this, and they all think it's really weird, because we aren't related and he's a teenager now. But this is of course an American opinion, so I can't tell for sure if we're imposing our ideas on this family. Again, if this is really a cultural thing though, I don't know how to tell the family that where I am from, it's kind of inappropriate for a boy so old to be sleeping next to me, especially when he's been spying on me lately, without causing issues. Of course, these behaviors affect other aspects of our life, as well as it is hard to get Dario to do anything because he usually claims it's too hard to do. Making a bed at 13? Too hard? Are you kidding? And I often find myself wanting to tell him to grow up. What I need help with is knowing whether he does need to grow up, or if all this behavior is normal here, and I am the crazy American that needs to adjust. Is this behavior normal for a 12-year-old, or is it immature? I feel like the parents still really see him as a young child, and usually he acts like it, but for the most part it seems like he plays up the baby act because he knows it makes his parents cater to him more. If this all is abnormal, does anyone have any suggestions about how to bring this up to the family? Edit. Just want to clarify that at the grandparents' house there are 2 beds, and they are next to each other. Dario was not in my bed, but in the bed next to mine. TLDR. I nanny for a boy, 13M, whose behavior makes me uncomfortable. I'm not sure if he is actually being inappropriate, or if there is just a large cultural difference between my home country and this country. Relevant comments. Commenter. It's normal behavior for a spoiled 13-year-old. Of course, most adolescents would want to peek at you through the curtains. The problem is the parents. They have to stop that shit right now. Don't you have authority as a nanny to scold him? I'm Spanish. We have a very similar culture to Italy, and that shit is inappropriate. The parents are educating a horrible child that will grow up to be an asshole that thinks the world should cater to him. Opie. Oh my goodness, the relief I am feeling right now to know that this isn't normal. So far, I have not particularly felt like I have much authority because the times I would scold him, the parents are sitting right there, and how can I reprimand him in front of his own parents? I didn't include this in the post, but he is already showing major signs of being an asshole. He is always so rude, critical, and ungrateful. Every meal I make he has something to insult about it. He treats his little sister like SHID even though she is a doll and often acts more mature than him. And he loves ordering me around and telling me what I'm doing wrong. It drives me up the wall. Commenter. We've established this kid's behavior is weird. But WTF at the parents responding to your request for privacy/curtains by giving them to the child? Opie. I have no clue. they've been really weird about some stuff. Like, this is TMI, but the mom knew I was on my period because I had to ask her where to buy tampons here, and we get to the house and there's no trash can in the bathroom or in my room. I asked for one multiple times and she said she would get one and never did. And when I asked last, she said, well, the kids have a trash can in their room if you need it. Like, WTF, are you not an adult woman? Do you not understand how this works? Do the parents discipline the kids? I asked about discipline when I interviewed, and they said they don't really have to discipline the kids. I should have taken it as a warning sign. Honestly, the mom is very strict about some stuff, so they're very good in certain areas that she deems important, etiquette, cleanliness. But when Dario picks on the daughter, they just let the kids yell and scream and cry until I step in. They also seem to encourage many of Dario's rude comments because technically he does word them politely. For example, I will bust my ass making a meal for the whole family. To be kind and helpful, it is not in my job description. And Dario will eat 4 plates of it and then say, I'm sorry, but why would you cook this like that? And I'll say, that's how we cook it in the US. And he'll say, well, I didn't like it. The Italian way is much better. And then put his plate on mine for me to take it to the kitchen and leave. No, thanks for cooking, no, but I did like this part. Just insult, clean my plate, bye. He loves to criticize. Is the child autistic? I thought about the autism initially, but I'm fairly certain it isn't that because when his parents are gone, the baby act completely turns off, and he acts like any other teenager, albeit manipulative and critical, I have ever known, and I have worked in childcare, in he classroom, and as a coach for years now. Update 1. Hi all. I'm back. Eesh, how long has it been? 3 to 4 months later with an update. The curtain issue. Like I said in my last post, I had just hung a blanket for privacy, and since then there have been no peeping issues. I asked 2 more times for curtains, and was reassured both times that the curtain man would come to hang them in my room. He did come back once and hung more curtains in the kids' room, but again not in mine. Then I was told that they didn't like him and would be finding another curtain guy to hang my curtains. It's been 4 months, no more mention of it. I still use the blanket. The vacation issue. I have simply refused to go on vacation with them. I'm off on weekends, and I've reached a point where I just refuse to be home for the entire weekend and manage not to see them from Friday night until Monday morning if I can help it. I go on weekend trips, crash on couches, sneak into my room when they're eating, things like that just to avoid seeing anyone on my days off. The Dario issue. Dario still acts extremely immaturely. I've warmed up to him a lot, and I've figured out how to cut his rudeness and such. He's become a lot more positive and kind, especially because his mom has been gone a lot and he's with me every day. I'm very upbeat and have worked really hard to get him to socialize and speak kindly. Unfortunately, he seems to have almost regressed in terms of the childish behavior. He still sits on laps, kisses a lot, and sleeps with a parent when the other is gone. The baby talk is constant. Constant. For example, he loves to repeat back butchered syllables of words if that makes sense. Like his dad will say, "Passami un cuchillo," pass me a spoon, and he will clap and exclaim, "Aio," or "Voy del agua?" Do you want water? And he'll go, "Qua qua." He also has started eating kind of like a baby too. Like he'll take the remaining tomato sauce that we used on pasta and use the giant spoon to drink it out of the pot and get it all over his face, and then suck on each of his fingers. But when I look at his parents, they're looking at him like when you see a cute baby trying to use a fork and getting food on his face. But he's 13, so it's honestly sickening to watch and listen to. He won't lock the door when he goes to the bathroom or showers. Why? I started locking the door when I was like 7, and he even cried the other day when his sister sat on the foot of his bed. He doesn't like things touching his bed. And guess what? The parents got mad at the daughter, said it was her fault for baiting him. She just had to tie her shoe for a second, and declared that it's her fault. Dario will be upset all night. He also hasn't made any progress with friends, and has taken to playing League of Legends, so he won't leave his room or do any activities or lessons with me or the sister. It's pretty sad, honestly. Basically, the hardest part of this whole thing has been the mother. I won't even go into it here, but she's honestly clinically insane, and I feel so bad for all the people in this house that have to put up with her. She's just a power-hungry, jealous, bitter woman who needs to see a professional. Basically, I went home for Christmas to be with my friends and family and realized how bad this experience was for my health. I was going out drinking almost every night to escape the house. I was sleeping horribly because I knew she was here, and her presence gave me awful anxiety. I was getting yelled at every day, even when I did nothing wrong. I was at home, and he states, and the thought of going back made me absolutely miserable. So when I came back, I told them I needed to go back early for medical reasons, not totally untrue, and now I'm set to leave the last week of March. They found a new girl. Look out for her post here sometime in the future. TLDR. Dario is still acting like a baby, the mom is still crazy, and I fudging quit. Homies, get me out of here. Hey everyone, it's me again with what's likely my final update from Italy. Buckle up because the last few weeks have been a roller coaster that even I couldn't have seen coming. So, quick refresher. I've been working as a nanny in Italy for this incredibly odd family, and the son, Dario, is a 13-year-old boy who behaves more like a toddler than an adolescent. Think baby talk, clinging to parents, bizarre eating habits, and the most fragile ego I've ever encountered in a human. If you're new here, scroll up to catch the full drama. But trust me, this saga just hit peak absurdity. The final curtain call, or lack thereof. You know how I've been waiting for curtains for 4 months now. The latest development was almost laughable. The family brought in a new handyman last week, Paolo, the local jack of all trades, who mostly specializes in promising things he can't deliver. He came by with a box of curtain rods, did some measuring, muttered something about needing special screws, and disappeared into the Italian ether. The next day, guess who got a new set of blackout curtains? Dario. Yes, more curtains in the kids' room, none in mine. At this point, I'm convinced the parents are either deliberately ignoring me or participating in some kind of social experiment to see how much I can tolerate before spontaneously combusting. Spoiler alert, I'm close. Dario's ongoing baby act. If I thought Dario's behavior couldn't get any more peculiar, I was sorely mistaken. The qua echoing around the house has only intensified. Last week, he took it up a notch by inventing his own gibberish language. Picture this. I'm trying to explain homework to him, and he's flapping his hands like a baby bird and chanting, "Papa ping," instead of paying attention. When I glanced at his mom, she was watching him with this tender smile, like he'd just recited Shakespeare. Then came the ultimate test of my patience. During lunch, he reached across the table for the olive oil, missed, and tipped the entire bottle over right into my lap. I gasped, half in shock, half in a rage I barely contained. Dario? He just burst into giggles and clapped. His mom handed me a towel, didn't say a word to him, and then murmured, "Oh, silly Dario." Meanwhile, I'm sitting there, drenched in oil, wondering if I'm actually starring in an Italian sitcom. The mom's meltdown. Remember how I mentioned the mom being, well, a lot? Last week, she truly outdid herself. Dario had a meltdown because his little sister borrowed one of his pens. He screamed, went full "I'm never writing again" mode, and stormed into his room, slamming the door so hard I thought the hinges would fly off. Cue the mom pacing the living room like it's the end of days. "You see what she does to him," she hissed at me. Her eyes were wide, borderline maniacal. The daughter, who by this point looked as fed up as I felt, just rolled her eyes and muttered, "It's just a pen, mama." Wrong move. The mom launched into a tirade about how no one in this house respects poor Dario, and he's so misunderstood. I had to bite my tongue to keep from asking if she was joking. The breaking point, but the last straw? The incident that made me decide there was absolutely no going back? 2 nights ago, I was in my room trying to FaceTime my friend when Dario barged in unannounced. I jumped up, startled, and asked him nicely to knock next time. He just stared at me, wide-eyed, and said, "I wanted to say goodnight." Before I could reply, he hugged me, not the casual "see ya" kind, but the kind that made me feel like I was a teddy bear he'd been searching for. I managed to extract myself, but the look in his eyes made my stomach churn. It was like he was daring me to scold him, to tell his mom. I kept my cool until he left, then sat on my bed for what felt like an hour, heart pounding. I knew right then I couldn't wait until March. The suffocating environment, the emotional chaos, the curtains that would never come, it was all too much. The escape plan, so I made a few calls and rearranged my flights. I'll be out of here by next week. I haven't told the family yet, but judging by the mom's erratic behavior, I expect a meltdown of epic proportions. Part of me feels guilty for leaving the daughter behind. She's the real MVP in this mess, but I can't set myself on fire to keep them warm. Will there be drama? Absolutely. Will I care? Probably not. It's time to reclaim my sanity. I'll be counting down the days and dodging Dario's hugs until then. Who knows what will happen when I finally tell them? Stay tuned. If I make it out alive, I might just post an update from somewhere far, far away from this madhouse. TLDR, curtains never came. Dario is still acting like a baby. The mom lost her mind over a pin, and I'm making a break for it. Wish me luck. Final update, the escape and aftermath. Hey everyone, here I am with the final curtain call of this wild Italian adventure. If you've been following along, you know I was gearing up to make my escape from the house of chaos. Well, buckle up, because what unfolded in the last week was something straight out of a soap opera. The big reveal: I decided to tell the family I was leaving 3 days before my new departure date. I figured that giving them too much notice would lead to endless guilt trips and potential sabotage, but waiting until the last minute might spark total chaos. So, after dinner one night when the mom had just finished a lengthy monologue about how misunderstood Dario is, I dropped the bomb. "I need to talk to you all," I said, standing in the middle of their pristine living room, palms sweating. The dad looked up from his phone, mildly annoyed, while the mom's face tightened with that look that always made my spine stiffen. "I've made the decision to go back home early due to personal reasons," I continued, forcing my voice to stay steady. "I'll be leaving in 3 days." Silence. And then, the mom exploded. "What do you mean you're leaving?" she screeched, voice rising an octave with each word. "We took you in. You can't just leave us stranded." Her eyes were wide, glistening with a mix of rage and shock. The dad just sat there, staring blankly like someone who had accepted defeat long ago. Dario, hearing the commotion, burst into the room. He took one look at his mother's face and started wailing actual, honest to God, baby sobbing. "Why is she leaving, Mama? Did I do something wrong?" He clutched at her sleeve like a toddler, and she wrapped her arm around him protectively. "No, Dario, it's not you," I said, trying to stay composed. Inside, I was already on the plane, sipping a tiny bottle of overpriced wine. "I just need to go." The meltdown the mom was inconsolable. She started pacing, throwing out words like traitor and backstabber, while Dario's wails grew louder, each one hitting my nerves like a hammer. The dad finally spoke, his voice calm and detached. "If she needs to go, she needs to go," he said, not making eye contact with anyone. It was like he was watching the scene play out from another room. I think I actually saw a flicker of relief in his eyes, like, maybe, just maybe, he'd finally realized how cracked this whole setup was. But the mom wasn't done. She stormed over to me, eyes narrowed to slits. "You think you can just walk out? After everything we've done for you?" Her voice dropped to a whisper that made my skin crawl. "Fine, go. But don't think for a second we'll make it easy." The final days, those last 3 days, were tense beyond belief. The mom barely spoke to me, except to bark orders like I was some lowly servant. Dario alternated between glaring at me from across the room and bursting into tears whenever I packed a suitcase. The daughter, bless her heart, slipped me a handwritten note that said, "I'll miss you. You're the only normal one here." I nearly teared up. On my final day, the mom tried one last power play. She came into my room, where I was zipping up my last suitcase, and said, "Dario wants to say goodbye." I hesitated, but she stepped aside, and in came Dario with puffy eyes and a trembling lower lip. "Why are you leaving?" he whispered, reverting to that baby voice that grated on me so much. I took a deep breath. "Dario, I need to go home and take care of myself, but you're going to be okay." He didn't say anything else, just turned and shuffled out of the room. For the first time, he looked his age and awkward, confused teenager caught in a mess bigger than him. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. The Great Escape, my taxi pulled up at dawn the next morning. I had one suitcase, my passport clutched in my hand, and the determination of someone breaking free. The house was quiet, too quiet. I half expected the mom to spring out of the bushes screaming, "You're not going anywhere," but she didn't. As we drove away, I felt the tension leave my body in waves. The streets of Rome were just waking up, bathed in that soft, golden light that makes everything look like an old movie. For the first time in months, I smiled a real, unforced smile. I was free. Epilogue, kind of. I'm writing this from my friend's apartment back in the US, coffee in one hand, a blanket over my legs, and the familiar sounds of home buzzing in the background. The new nanny has already messaged me. She found my number in an old group chat. "Hey, this is new nanny. Just wondering, did Dario always speak in that baby voice? It's driving me nuts." I just laughed and turned off my phone. Some stories are better left untold. TLDR. I dropped the news, the mom lost her mind, Dario wept, and I made my great escape. I'm home, safe and sane, mostly.